Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning into today's webinar. We're very excited that you're joining us as we discuss a top nutrition credential and hear from some industry experts on how to earn it and make it benefit your career. Before we get into some of the content that we'll be joined by some members from the Board of Certified Nutrition Specialists, we would again like to say welcome on their behalf as well. You are joined by UNE Online faculty members and some of our guests from the college. Before we kind of dive into what the content is, I'd like to first review just some general housekeeping notes for today's session and remind those joining us live, this webinar will be recorded, and by continuing on with this webinar, you are accepting that you will be a part of a recorded process that will be used for future students. Also, we will make sure all of your questions are answered and want to invite you to join the conversation by using your chat window within the webinar. Following our speakers, we'll dedicate a portion of today's session specifically for question and answers. So send them in as folks are talking or presenting. If anything pops up, just type it in and we'll be sure to address it. With that, let's get into who we'll be joined by. Let me introduce myself. My name is Donnie Wright, and I'm the marketing manager with UNE Online. Joined with me today is Dr. Ellie Dodge, the director of the Applied Nutrition Programs at UNE Online. And joining us remotely, we have Debbie Slutsky, the professional development coordinator with the Board of Certified Nutrition Specialists. She'll be joined by her colleague, Ginger Downey, an executive administrator with BCNS. And now I'd like to welcome Ellie, who will share a little more about each of our presenters before we get into today's content.
Hi everyone, this is Ellie Dodge. Like Donnie said, I'm the director of the Masters in Science and Applied Nutrition here at UNE Online, and I am delighted to be able to introduce our co-hosts today to you who work with the Board for Certified Nutrition Specialists. The first person you'll hear from is Ginger Downey. Ginger Downey is a certified nutrition specialist with a BS and MS in nutrition, in addition to her specialized training in nutrigenomics and health coaching. She uses her nutrition training and expertise in a variety of professional settings, including that she is the co-owner of DermaMed Solutions, a holistic provider of skincare solutions. She's also the executive administrator for the Board of Certification of Nutrition Specialists, and she also enjoys a busy private practice. In her latest role as executive administrator for the Board of Certification of Nutrition Specialists, under the direction of the Board of Directors, she oversees administrative management for BCNS operational activities, while also ensuring compliance with Board of Director directives and other certification requirements. The BCNS is the certifying body for the Certified Nutrition Specialist Credential, which you'll be hearing more about today. Ginger's professional affiliations include the American College of Nutrition, the Board for Certification of Nutrition Specialists, the American Nutrition Association, and the BCNS Legislative Committee. And Ginger will be walking us through the first few slides. After you hear from Ginger, we'll be hearing from Debbie Slutsky. Debbie is, in addition to her role at BCNS, a certified holistic health counselor, and she is devoted to living a life of health and wellness and helping others achieve the same in their own way. As the professional development manager with Board for Certification of Nutrition Specialists and the American Nutrition Association, she implements and executes program initiatives which support both the nutrition profession and nutrition professionals. Debbie received her BA from the George Washington University and her health coach training at the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. When Debbie isn't training for a marathon or working, she enjoys yoga, tennis, long walks, and above all, spending time with her husband and twin daughters who are about to head off to college. So with that, I'd like everyone to help welcome our presenters, and we'll be turning the slides over to them.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today to learn more about the CNS Credential. My name is Ginger Downey, and I am the Executive Administrator for the BCNS. And as Ellie had said, that is the organization that grants the CNS Credential. My role is to oversee the operations of the organization, and our offices are located in Hinsdale, Illinois. That's where Debbie's located, so when you call or email the office, that's where you're calling or emailing, and Debbie is likely the person you will speak to. I work remotely myself in New Jersey. And so just to start off, a little bit more information about what is the BCNS. So it is the Board for the Certification of Nutrition Specialists, and that's a mouthful. and we are the certifying body for the CNS Credential. And we consider the CNS Credential the gold standard credential for advanced clinical nutrition professionals. We really are different in that we are setting competency standards for advanced clinical nutrition practice. We create and administer a rigorous science-based certification exam. We set and maintain substantial education experience and CE, continuing education requirements. And something that's really interesting and that sets us apart is that we advocate. We advocate for the advancement of nutrition practice in healthcare, and that's through our Center for Nutrition Advocacy. And we'll be talking a little bit more about that later in the webinar. And so because we have this advocacy arm, we have become the most widely recognized certification for state and federal, most widely recognized advanced degree certification for state and federal licensing laws. Next slide, please. So our credential was launched back in 1993 for advanced clinical nutritional professionals who wanted to practice in a variety of settings. So some people wanted to work in academia, in government, in industry, in hospitals, or in clinical practice. We are fully accredited by NCCA, and that's the National Commission for Certifying Agencies. And this really distinguishes us from other advanced degree nutrition credentials. There's a very rigorous process that's involved to become accredited with NCCA, and it focuses on our processes for development and implementation, for our exam, for maintenance, for governance of our certification. And we just recertified again recently, and I can tell you that it is, they really put us through our paces. And so we earn our certification with NCCA, and we are quite proud of it. And again, this helps us in state licensing laws. And that's a recurring theme here, and for good reason. So I know there are many people who choose other nutrition credentials that are not recognized in state licensing laws. And what happens to some people is they invest all this time in their education and their training, and then they go out into the workplace and they want to work, but there are state laws in place that may prevent them from doing so. And what a shame it would be to invest all that time and money into a wonderful education program and not be able to work in your state. So this is very important, and we will talk about it throughout the webinar, just reinforcing the importance of recognition in licensure laws. We are listed by the U.S. Department of Labor as the Advanced Nutrition Credential under the definition of dietitians and nutritionists for the profession. Again, another honor we were really excited to obtain a few years back. Next slide, please. So why the CNS credential? Well, I could go on and on about this, myself being a very proud CNS, and also just having the opportunity to work with so many amazing and diverse, smart people who hold our credential. So CNSs are highly respected advanced degree nutrition professionals who practice science-based advanced medical nutrition therapy in a variety of settings. So there are many ways that you can kind of come to be a CNS and many ways that you can use your credential. So many clinical nutritionists choose to be a CNS so that they can also have that practice right, better established for themselves, in addition to setting themselves apart from their peers. Many MDs and DOs now are looking to demonstrate that they have some advanced nutrition specialty training, and they are choosing to become a CNS. And then also scholars, researchers, educators, product developers, and scientists who want to stand out among their peers as having advanced nutrition knowledge will obtain the CNS credential. So we talked about meeting rigorous academic supervised practice, academic training, supervised practice experience, and continuing education. In addition, like we said, we are fully accredited by NCCA. Next slide, please. Just a little snapshot from the Occupational Outlook Handbook. And in case you're not familiar with this, this is the government go-to source for career guidance on hundreds of different careers, but also for nutritionists and dietitians. And so this book is revised every 2 years. And a couple of years back, we gained this inclusion in this book and were named the advanced degree nutrition professional. So this is really awesome. So that's just a little intro about, who the BCNS is, a little bit more about the CNS credential and what sets us apart. And now I would like to turn things over to Debbie Slutsky, who is the CNS guru, an amazing source of information on everything CNS. And she is going to be taking over now. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Ginger. So yes, we can go to the next slide. So now we get into the meat of how to apply for and what is required to obtain the CNS credential. So who should really obtain the credential? Nutritionists, DCs, DDSs, NDs, PAs, PharmDs, ODs, RDNs. We have a lot of people in the nutrition and healthcare profession who wish to demonstrate competence as advanced clinical nutrition professionals or obtain a pathway to state licensure, again, for nutrition practice and medical nutrition therapy. So what does this all mean? The degree requirement can vary, but in a nutshell, the required degree is a Master's of Science or a doctoral degree in a field of nutrition or a related healthcare field. So this is including, but not limited to, public health, health science, biochemistry, nursing, physician's assistant, and the degree must be from a regionally accredited college or university or its foreign equivalency. So many of you are enrolled or planning on enrolling in the UNE MS of Applied Nutrition program. So of course this meets our requirement. It's a regionally accredited university and it's the MS required degree. The other option is a doctoral degree in a field of clinical healthcare. So again, this would be including but not limited to DCs, DDSs, Doctor of Nursing, NDs, PharmDs, and again, from a US regionally accredited college or university or its foreign equivalency. So this is just something to note if maybe you come in contact with or have some experience with getting a master's in nutrition from a foreign educational institution. There are ways to get that degree from an outside consulting agency to evaluate the equivalency to a US degree. So just something to note. Now, in addition to having the degree, you also have to make sure that you have the required coursework. So this would include, and again, I'll reiterate, we kind of put that check mark next to the UNE coursework. We have fully vetted UNE MS of Applied Nutrition program, and the coursework fully meets our requirements. So when we talk about the nutrition specific coursework, this is the one coursework area that the semester credit hours must be at the graduate level. So we currently require 9 semester credit hours, but we have actually just recently implemented a change to requiring 12. So this is still covered, and the UNE program meets this requirement. So 12 semester credit hours in nutrition specific coursework. And then I'll go a little bit more into detail in some coming slides, but the other nutrition related coursework is going to include biochemistry, anatomy and physiology, clinical or life sciences, and behavioral science. So we'll get more into that coming up. Next slide, please. Okay, so in addition to the degree and the coursework requirement, there's also a supervised practice experience requirement. And I'm going to get a little bit more into the details here, but you must work with a BCNS approved supervisor. And something important to note is that hours for the supervised practice experience can begin once you are matriculated in or enrolled in the MS program. So again, I'll go more into that, how that works in a few moments. But you can apply to sit for the CNS exam once you have the degree and the coursework requirements met. So you do not need to have completed the 1,000 hours of practice experience to sit for the exam, but I will note that the experience definitely helps you to perform better on the exam, and we do have data that supports that. And then the last thing on this slide is continuing education. So once you do have the CNS credential, we do have a continuing education requirement that you will meet every 5 years. Next slide. Okay, so again, some frequently asked questions that I wanted to put on here as far as when the best time is to take the exam, how to prepare for the exam. We have a lot of information on the BCNS website, so if you have not looked at it yet, I encourage you to take a look. It's nutritionspecialist.org, and I think it's on this presentation somewhere, or of course we'll give you access to that. But we have a couple things listed on the website, the exam content outline, and then also a reference list of books and resources that we recommend for you to brush up on the domains that you perhaps either feel like you need a little bit more work on, or just to give you an overview of everything that is included in the exam content outline. It's definitely a pretty large list, and we definitely do not encourage you to just read every book there. But again, if there's perhaps a domain that you feel you might not have as much experience in, you might want to look at that. We also work in conjunction with the American Nutrition Association, and they do have an ebook on their website for sale that you can order, and it's just kind of a study guide type of resource. Now, we can't endorse or recommend any courses for the exam, but we have had candidates and CNSs give some recommendations as far as other websites and study courses. So we do list those on our website, or I often will give those out as a list, and they just kind of include study.com, Exam Edge, Study for CNS, the Clinicians Incubator. So these are just some that either are actually developed by CNSs or just some third party out there that have been recommended to us as helpful. And then, like I said, just having some of the practice experience definitely will help on the exam. Study groups, and we have some Facebook groups out there too that I hear are very effective. And of course, your coursework at UNE will help you to prepare for the exam also. All right, next slide. So how is the exam developed? The process begins with a comprehensive job analysis. This is conducted and analyzed by subject matter experts with data gathered from experienced clinical nutrition professionals currently in practice regarding the knowledge and skills needed for competencies in practice. So we do one of these job analysis surveys every 5 years, and in fact, it's actually required by the NCCA. So it's a great practice to do and to see really what has changed and what is changing in the profession. So we just completed one at the end of last year, and this is being implemented this coming year in 2019 and upcoming 2020. So from the job analysis survey, the exam content outline is actually developed. So we have a council of subject matter experts, including members of our BCNS board of directors, and they write and review questions for the exam. Now, this team also categorizes the questions in accordance with the domains outline in the exam content outline that I mentioned. So once a question is approved and categorized by the council, it's added to the test data bank. We then have a psychometrician perform detailed statistical analysis to ensure that each examination is drawn from the test bank and scored in a psychometrically valid manner. So it's a pretty intricate system. We do have a little bit more information if this is of interest to you on our website. But it is, like Ginger mentioned, having our accreditation from NCCA, we really are required to have such a in-depth type of development for the exam, and it's a rigorous process on both ends. Okay, next slide. So the exam content outline, once again, like I said, this is developed from the recent job analysis survey. This is also posted on the BCNS website. And while it's not that different actually from the one before, the one that we had done that came from the job analysis survey 5 years prior, there definitely is some added content and things that we found from the job analysis survey that nutritionists are doing differently in their day-to-day work in clinical nutrition. So just to give a sense, I won't go into too much detail, but we added some content including, let's see, I'll just read a few from the list here of our new things. The effect of the microbiome on body composition and metabolism, epigenetics, methyl donor biochemistry, and hypo and hypermethylation. There's a lot of new information on MNT, medical nutrition therapy. And then we do actually add a couple of new domains, and I'll show you that as we flip through them. So just to give you an idea, again, this is all on the website, and you'll see that domain A, fundamental principles of nutrition, that this is 25, this is a pretty big domain, this is 25% of the exam. So by reviewing the exam content outline is also an effective way to prepare for and study for the exam. So Donnie, if you don't mind, we can kind of scroll through the next few slides, and this will give everyone an idea of what you'll see on the website and each of the domains and competencies listed. So you'll see that's 14% of the exam. Same with nutrition assessment, 14% of the exam. And so just knowing each of these bulleted points, being familiar with, having used in practice, these are good ways to determine what is on the exam. And these last two domains, public health and practice management, these are two new domains that we added this year. So a smaller percentage of the exam, but still something that our subject matter experts felt was very important, that should be on the exam because it is information that CNSs should know and should be just have the importance that they'll be using it on a regular basis in their profession. So we can go to the next slide. Let's see, so the exam application process. So this, of course, there's a link on the BCNS website for the exam application. Now, right now, this is a fillable and downloadable PDF form. A lot of the things on our website will be changing in the months to come, so it'll soon be easier, but a fillable web page, like applications that I'm sure you have filled out already, where you can start to fill it out, save your work, and come back later. But I will admit, right now it's not at that point, but it's it's not a problem. It's very easy to fill out. So the PDF form, the application just asks for some general information at the beginning, and then there is supporting documentation that we put in a checklist here. So just to note, school transcripts should come separately from the school. So these are official transcripts that need to come to the BCNS office, whether it's via mail, US Postal Mail, or email is fine as well, but they're that's the way of the official transcript, is that you're not intercepting it in any way. We have 2 letters of recommendation are also part of this application, and these should also come separately from the people that are writing them. And there is more of an explanation on the exam, but it needs to be on their letterhead, and it needs to be somebody in the nutrition profession who has worked with you. Now, this could be faculty faculty and people that you are familiar with, and they're familiar with you and your work or your schoolwork from UNE. So these can definitely be your recommendation letters, or perhaps somebody that you've worked with in the past. And so you'll be sending all of this information to applications@nutritionspecialist.org, and there's also a $50 application fee, and that can be paid online from our website also. So just to note, the next exam that we're offering, and we do offer it 2 times a year, is November 16th. And the deadline to submit your application and all of these materials is September 13th. So just to give you an idea of, many of you, I'm sure, are in different stages of your master's program. So don't worry, there will be another one in June. So as of now, we offer the exam in November and in June. So we can go to the next slide. So I will take you through the actual exam application and how to fill it out. And let's see, yeah, this is just kind of an overview of what the coursework requirements are. We basically, worked with Ellie and her staff and just looked at the curriculum and kind of filled out a sample application for all of you, make it a little bit easier, more straightforward. We can go to the next slide to show that. So this is the first section. Well, actually, the first section, like I said, is more of like the general information, but this is the first section of the coursework requirements. Let's see. What we do ask is that you actually fill out the course number and name. Again, we put this here so that you're definitely welcome to just copy and paste. Makes it very easy. But in vetting the UNE MS in Applied Nutrition program, we have found that with all of these courses, it meets the requirements. Now, I mentioned that previously we asked for 9 credits. We now ask for 12. So you can list any of these 4 courses. You don't have to list more than 12. You won't get extra credit or anything like that. I get many applications where people just kind of list every single course that they took and think that it's like extra credit, that they have 15 or 18 credits. That's fine, but we don't need to see it all. So just list the 12 semester credit hours of their courses. And then if we go to the next slide, the next, like I had mentioned previously, the next areas of coursework are biochemistry. So you'll see this is, the requirement is 6 semester credits. Now, biochem and the rest of the courses that we'll go through, or the categories, can be in undergraduate or graduate level. So just the first section, the nutrition specific coursework, have to be graduate level, and then the rest that are nutrition related are at the undergrad or graduate level. So many students will have usually 1 3 credit course from their undergraduate studies in biochem. So perhaps you've taken an intro to biochem course. So you can definitely list that one here. We will need to see that transcript also. So any course that you're listing on the application would need to have a transcript sent. So if you attended a school but you're not using any of the coursework, you don't have to send us the transcript. We only want to see it if you're listing the courses on your application. So you can check to see if courses that you have taken meet the coursework requirements by comparing it to those that we have listed in the section on our website called Curriculum Overview. So we just kind of list course names and subject, kind of what the course should have covered. So you can kind of compare your syllabus to what we list on the website. Otherwise, you should definitely plan on taking these 2 biochemistry courses that UNE offers. So this is great. We do work with some schools that only offer 1 biochem course and kind of rely on the students to have taken it earlier. So this is wonderful that UNE offers 6 full credits of biochem. And then the next requirement is 1 course or 3 semester credits in physiology, anatomy and physiology. So again, perhaps a course that you took undergrad you could list here, or the one that we have listed here that you can take through UNE. All right, next slide. And then the clinical or life sciences section. So this, again, can be either graduate or undergraduate courses. Typically, students have a lot more than 12 semester credit hours here. So again, you only need to list 12 credits or 4 courses. You don't have to write every course you have taken. I won't give out extra credit. But this is, there's a lot that are offered here through UNE. Again, I know some can be electives, some can be from the core curriculum. And then the next slide is another new area for coursework requirement. We can just go to the next slide. So this is going to be behavioral science course. Just 2 semester credits or 1 course. This can be undergrad also, but you might have taken something undergrad, and it's important to know how to do motivational interviewing and counseling and know the principles and practices of health behavior and self-care. So this came really from our subject matter experts and looking at some of the state licensing and just really wanting to have just a little bit more of a robust requirement program that includes this behavioral sciences. Now, and you could also use 30 continuing education credits to fulfill this category. So this could include participating in conferences or webinars or courses, and typically 1 CE or continuing education credit equals 1 hour of instructional activity. So that's another way that you can fulfill this particular requirement, not the other courses, just the behavioral sciences. All right, go to the next. And I'm just going to have to probably talk a little faster, but this is just looking at the time here. The supervised practice experience. We have a lot of information on this on our website also. And like I mentioned before, once you're matriculated or enrolled in the UNE MS Nutrition program, you can begin your supervised practice experience hours. Now, we highly recommend that you wait until you have taken some of your foundational courses, at least perhaps 2 semesters, but it also depends on your previous education and background. So I know a lot of you come from different backgrounds, but if you've already worked in a clinical setting, or you already have perhaps an RD or another MS in a related healthcare field, you might be feel more ready to begin your supervised practice experience hours, since maybe you've already been working directly with your own clients or supervisor's clients. But if this is new and you're new to this area, you might want to wait until you again have taken your foundational courses. So there are many ways that you can earn your supervised practice hours, such as working in a clinical practice, either your own or someone else's, working in a community setting, having an internship, working in a functional medicine or other type of doctor's office. And it's important that you review and become familiar with our competencies that you have to fulfill in the supervised practice experience, because you might need to work with more than one supervisor or in more than one setting. And we actually encourage you to do so to get a more well-rounded experience. So for example, if you're working in a fertility clinic, you might want to work with another in another type of setting too, because you'd be limited with your audience that you're working with. It would be a great experience, but it may not fulfill all of the competencies. So we have a document on our website that's called the CNS Practice Experience Plan for candidates, which just basically will help you map out your practice experience before you even start. Let's see, I guess we can go to the next slide. And then as far as getting a supervisor, we highly recommend that you have your supervisor or somebody that you have in mind to be your supervisor approved from the BCNS before you start working with him or her. We have a document that's called the Supervisor Approval Application that they will submit along with their resume or CV. and we will approve them within a couple of weeks. So just the basic requirements are they can be a CNS, they don't have to, but a CNS is helpful, with 3 or more years of full-time experience in clinical nutrition. You could work with just anyone else with an MS or doctoral degree in the field of nutrition or dietetics, again with at least 3 years of full-time experience. If you're working with an MD or DO with didactic training or education and experience in nutrition, they also must document 75 continuing education units in nutrition. So we just want to make sure that they have the training and education in nutrition along with the experience in their practice. And if you're working with a DC, a chiropractor, they must also have a CNS or an MS in nutrition. So once they're approved, their approval is good for 3 years. So we have faculty from various schools who are an approved supervisor, and then they can work with multiple supervisees. So if anyone on the call is listening as a faculty member and you want to become a supervisor, that would be wonderful, and we can just have you approved in the database. But we do have a document again on our website that's called the CNS SPE Handbook, and this is a great all-inclusive resource for both the candidate and the supervisor on the whole program and how it works. And you are always free to contact me as well with any questions. It's always good to know before you get started if possible, so that you don't spend the extra time and energy and resources with some experience that may not be, they would probably be good for your own, personal knowledge, but perhaps won't meet the requirements for the CNS. So I think we'll go to one last slide and then we're going to open it up to questions. So just to let you know, Ginger talked about it a little bit as well, and when we talked about the Center for Nutrition Advocacy, the BCNS is part of a nutrition group or consortium, which is made up of the Center for Nutrition Advocacy, as well as the American Nutrition Association and the American College of Nutrition, listed here. So we really encourage you to get involved with these organizations. They're great for networking and education. There's a lot of different activities that they offer, networking. The ACN holds an annual conference, which is in November. This coming year in November will be in San Diego, so a much better, nicer place to be than in New England or Chicago, in my opinion. But so you can join as a student, and there are also opportunities for even student scholarships to attend the conference. So I encourage you to visit their website listed here. So like I said, we're going to move to opening up for questions, but before we do that, I just want to thank all of you for attending today's webinar and for your interest in the CNS and your dedication to the field of applied clinical nutrition. And I also want to thank Ellie Dodge and Donnie Wright at UNE for working with the BCNS for the past couple of years to ensure that your program has a pathway to the CNS, and also, of course, for putting together this important webinar. Thank you.
Thanks, Debbie. Ellie and I would like to pass our thanks as well, especially for the wealth of information that you and Ginger both gave us just now. I know that our audience, current students, interested students, graduates, would find all of what you covered very, very helpful, because we get a lot of interest in this credential, and I know that everything that you covered is going to be incredibly insightful to help them. With that, I'd like to jump into some of the questions that we collected as you were both presenting. The first one being, what are some of the advantages or positives that the CNS credential brings?
Yeah, so that's great. And I think one of the slides that Ginger was talking about talked about the gold standard, meaning it's really the highest degree and the most rigorous examination that is required of professionals to get the CNS. So having it really means that you have passed those tests. And it's also the most widely recognized certification by both state and federal governments. And it often will streamline the process for state licensing. And as you saw, there are a variety of career options and opportunities with the CNS. So I think with some of the jobs and roles that that I mentioned and you saw on the screen, there are a lot of options that you can do with the CNS credential.
That actually kind of leads into one of our next questions. You showed a slide of a couple of different folks that have that CNS credential and offered a variety of career settings that they could work in. Can you expand a little bit on what the CNS credential, what type of work the CNS credential allows you to do?
Sure. Yeah, and I think I actually just touched upon, just for space on the slides, but we are in touch with so many CNSs for different reasons. They're on committees, they do volunteer work, they are supervisors, like I mentioned. So we see them in clinical work, media work, food service, writing and speaking, owning, directing, managing different organizations, corporations, and foundations, private practice. Many will work in doctor's offices. Some are in nonprofit organizations. And so I mentioned that we recently sent out a survey to see what CNSs are up to, and I think I mentioned a few. But I think that some of the main categories that we see people are in their own business, or even being a nutrition consultant for corporations or other organizations, definitely teaching, working in functional medicine, working in, teaching, let's see, I think I mentioned that. Professional development, publications, working on case studies or working in research for publications, whether it's in like a peer-related or professional journal, but also if you were to look on Amazon or books, there's a lot of just really great books out there that are written by CNSs. Private practice. One is a nutritionist for the Vitamin Shop, and I know some of them work in other health food type businesses and corporations. So yeah, there is just so much to do in this industry. It's really exciting.
Yeah, that definitely gives a little bit more of a whole picture to the credential. So I appreciate you kind of reiterating a lot of what the career settings can look like for someone with the CNS. And for our users that are tuning in, you can always refer back to the slide that Debbie provided that gives a little bit more concrete examples to the folks that have this credential and the current work they do. One of the other questions that we received, which is a very common question that our admissions team gets in working with interested students, is what advantages would the CNS provide that would make it more beneficial than an RD certification?
Yeah, I mean, I think both are important and are allowed to practice at their level and often scope of practice. So I know we do have a new pathway for RDs to the CNS. So, you do have to get that advanced degree, the MS now. So I think really everyone working in the field of nutrition and allowing, again, to practice at their level and their scope are both very important. So, I leave that up to everyone's personal choice, as doesn't have to be a choice between different credentials, but I think some of the things that Ginger mentioned at the beginning, just, really what is the CNS and how is it recognized, I think would be, just something to note in looking at the, whether it's a degree or the credential that you're looking to get.
Debbie, this is Ginger, if I could just chime in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I would also say that I have an RD undergrad. I did not become an RD, but I did the RD bachelor program. And I think that for the RD, a large portion of their training and work is in food service. And the same thing with the RD exam. So I think it's something like 25%, if I remember correctly. And so one difference is that the RDs have that food service piece, where the CNS is strictly clinical nutrition. So there's no food service requirement with our credential. So just a small differentiating point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. That was all really helpful, especially Ginger. That note at the end is very helpful as well. Both of what you guys offered is it adds a little bit more context to the differentiation between the two certifications. We'll close with one final question, just to be mindful of time. This coming from a program who is welcoming and sees a lot of career changers enroll. Would you say that the CNS is a good path for career changers?
I'll answer. Yeah, definitely. Many CNS and CNS candidates who are enrolled in MS nutrition programs are definitely in a second career, maybe realizing their interest in nutrition and desire to, whether it's helping themselves or others, or getting more involved in the field of world of nutrition. It's also a career enhancer for those that are already in like the medical field. So whether they're MDs or DOs or DCs, chiropractors who either already are using nutrition in their practice or who want to go in that direction because of the need. So yes, definitely I would say that this is a great path for career changers or looking to, again, enhance their current career.
Yeah, this is Ginger. I'll just chime in by saying I was an HR person for the first half of my career, which really had nothing to do with nutrition. So I made a complete change, prompted by kind of a personal health crisis, which was solved by, practicing good nutrition and lifestyle. So I think that's common for many people that I talk to who are CNSs, who are clinical nutritionists, that there's some motivating event in their life or the life of someone important to them that, they seek food and good nutrition as a tool to, address their chronic health conditions and successfully, So I think it's just a common theme among CNSs, and I just want to chime in and say I'm definitely a career changer. I did the same.
All right, well, that wraps up today's webinar. And again, I would like to say thank you for everyone for spending a part of your day with UNE Online and the folks from BCNS. And I also like to say a special thank you to Debbie and Ginger for being a part of today's session. On your screen right now, you have some contact information for BCNS. If you have any additional questions that they can answer, please feel free to use whichever method works best for you. And also for UNE Online, if we have any interested students or any current students that would like a little bit more information or detail to what was covered in today's session, please email nutrition@une.edu, and we can go ahead and continue to answer any questions that come up or give you any more details around what we covered today. And with that, I will say goodbye and thank you again for tuning into today's webinar.